Good evening, my name is Doug, and welcome to the first in a series of videos on backyard gardening in the lower desert. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is my backyard garden. Before we get started, my credentials are I have degrees in biochemistry. My graduate school project was in a plant physiology lab, excuse the dog, so in a plant physiology lab where I studied polyphenolics and diterpenoids and Vitis vinifera under abiotic stress, or in other words, secondary metabolism in plants under environmental stress. So I know a few things scientifically as well as physiologically about plants and how to make them survive. And so what my backyard garden here is a test garden to illustrate and to implement things I have learned in order to maybe help you create a thriving backyard garden in your own life. Some of the things we're going to talk about in these series of videos are things that may be of use to you in getting your own garden started or fixing your garden, or just for your own informational purposes should you be interested in gardening at all, because this is a little bit different of an environment, and some things work here that don't work in other places, and some things work in other places that don't work here. So some of the topics we're going to discuss are symbiosis between the plants, between plants and insects, between plants and the wind, between plants and the sun, because you can see it is the 13th of August 2016. I am in the backyard of my property. This is an east-facing yard, and we're in the shade. It was 110 degrees today, but in the backyard it's about 97 right now. It's about 6 o'clock in the evening, just after 6 o'clock. We'll also talk about soil prep and bed prep and the nutrients in the soil, the microbes in the soil. We'll talk about the plants I chose and why I chose the particular varieties that I chose. And then we'll talk about some of the building strategies, the watering strategies, the protection from the sun, protection from the elements, and a few other things. So to kind of give you a preview of what to expect, and I'll go into these in greater detail. What I want to do now, before we get into the first one of those, is want to give you sort of a survey of what I have here, to give you an idea of what there is to expect here in the yard. This is my throwaway backyard corner for flowering organisms. Most of the things here are not intended for human consumption because of their proximity to my dog run. And as you can imagine, there may be things in there I don't want to eat. So that's purely for aesthetics. I'll be adding a few other things in there, maybe some roses, but I bought a new plant today that will go in there. Yeah, I know it's August and I'm buying new plants. So here are my fruit trees along, this is the southern exposure of the property, and I'm standing in a run that's currently, or a bed here that's currently not used. This will be where the lettuce goes in a few weeks when I get around to planting that. Then I have my planter boxes. These are the permanent planter boxes. In the back here there I have a shade tree. This is actually a basil bush here right in front of us. Grapevines, raspberries in there, beans, lemon tree, some herbs. There's also strawberries in there. This is asparagus and what used to be an artichoke that's finished blooming. I let that one bloom just because I was curious what the flowers look like. Then we have basically the same thing on the other side, except for in here I have some what's it called, cauliflower. There's some watermelon vines in here as well. There's some asparagus starts back there. That's broccoli in the back there. Some decorative vines, carrots, beets, and then some onions and shallots will go in there. Just on the border here where the sun and the shade come together was the corn. That did all die in July when we had a huge heat wave, and so I don't know if I'll try corn again. Over here, these are my succulents. That's aloe vera, and this is actually a coffee plant here in the pot that I planted some seeds from Peru just to see if they would grow, because that's what scientists do. This is my tomato patch. This is what everyone else who does these kinds of programs and videos and booklets is interested in. I'm not sure what the fetish is with tomatoes and such, but as you can see, although it's August, I do have a thriving and vivacious crop, and even though it is as hot as I said, you can see down in here there are some ripening tomatoes. There's another one down in there. And I had some peppers on here that I think the critters got to. My fruit trees here never actually gave any flowers. I think it's because we didn't have a frost. And then in here, this was my vines. You can see there's still a couple of zucchini. And then in the left corner there, there's some melons that seeded themselves. The watermelons are all dead. They never did actually give me any flowers, so I'm not really sure exactly what happened there. But like I said, it's an experimental garden. I'm hoping to coax some things out, and then every now and then I get some volunteers that I have no idea where they came from. And so that concludes the first segment of this. We'll start another one in just a moment.